The grand chamber of Glycan was a testament to permanence. Its walls were not built, but grown from the living heart crystal of their world, a semi-sentient mineral that resonated with the collective consciousness of their race. Light, filtered through millennia of crystalline growth, bathed the circular space in a soft, internal luminescence that seemed to emanate from the very air. In the center, suspended above a silent, swirling vortex of captured temporal energy, the High Council convened. They were beings of immense age and deliberate thought, their forms encased in ornate, biomechanical shells that integrated them directly with the chamber's data streams and the archives of their entire civilization. For eons, they had been the undisputed masters of their galactic quadrant, a supremacy built on unwavering logic, overwhelming force, and the careful, methodical assimilation of lesser species. Today, however, their logic was fractured, their force was irrelevant, and the entity that occupied their thoughts could not be assimilated. It could barely be understood. They spoke of the species known as humanity. Silence, a rare and unsettling commodity in the ever-humming chamber, had stretched for an unnervingly long duration. It was finally broken by the resonant, gravelly tones of Prime Counselor Vorlag, his armored shell glowing with the deep crimson of authority and concern. The silence from the Sol system persists. Our deep range augurs report no change. No transmissions of significance, no fleets massing at their borders, no diplomatic overtures. Nothing. It is a void, a deliberate and calculated emptiness that speaks more loudly than any declaration of war. He gestured with a multi-jointed appendage toward the central vortex, where a star map shimmered into existence. A single system, Sol, was circled by a faint, cautionary glyph. For generations, we have monitored them, ever since their primitive radio signals first breached their ionosphere. We dismissed them as ephemeral, a fleeting spark of biological chaos destined to extinguish itself. We categorized them, filed them away under pre-spacefaring primitives, potential for servitude, low-priority observation. Yet, we were wrong. Across the chamber, Counselor Jira, whose shell was a sleek, pearlescent white indicative of her focus on diplomacy and xenology, shifted in her suspensor field. Wrong, Prime Counselor, or merely impatient, they are a young race. Their technological ascent has been erratic, explosive yet interspersed with periods of self-inflicted strife. Perhaps their silence is not a strategy, but a symptom of collapse. Their own histories, the fragmented data we have managed to collate, are filled with violence, with division. It would be in keeping with their nature to have simply imploded. Her voice was smooth, a carefully modulated instrument of reason, yet a flicker of uncertainty pulsed in the light patterns across her shell. The argument was logical, yet it felt hollow, an old lullaby sung to soothe a growing fear. The data did not support it. The silence was too perfect. It was not the chaotic noise of a civilization tearing itself apart. It was the coordinated, disciplined quiet of a predator holding its breath. An older, more scarred counselor, Vrex, a veteran of the brutal Cathar pacification campaigns, scoffed. His shell was a dull, pitted iron, devoid of any ceremonial luster. Collapse! Do not mistake a coiled serpent for a dead one, Jira. My strategists have analyzed their ascent. Their periods of internal conflict were horrific, yes, but they were also catalysts. Each global war they waged was followed by a technological leap an order of magnitude greater than the last. They forge progress in the fires of self-destruction. They are a paradox, a species that grows stronger through injury. To assume they have simply faded away is a fatal miscalculation. The legend of the Silent Ones was known even in the time of my spawning. A species that would rise from a forgotten world, not with the roar of conquest, but with a whisper that could shatter empires. The mention of the legend caused a subtle ripple of disturbance in the chamber's ambient energy. It was an old tale, a piece of deep space folklore traded by freighter captains and rogue prospectors in the lawless outer territories. A myth of a species that would bide its time, watching from the shadows, mastering not just the physical universe, but the very principles of existence before revealing themselves. Most serious political bodies, including the Glycan supremacy, had dismissed it as fanciful nonsense. But as the centuries of human silence stretched on, the whispers had returned, finding purchase in the dark corners of the galactic consciousness. They were no longer just a legend. They were a possibility. Prime Counselor Vorlag's crimson light deepened. The legend is irrelevant. We will deal with facts. And the fact is, an anomaly of immense power has been detected at the edge of the Sol system. Our listening posts in the Uit cloud, placed there centuries ago, have registered a gravitational distortion unlike any we have ever recorded. It is not the signature of a ship's drive, nor is it a natural phenomenon. It is controlled, precise, a deliberate manipulation of spacetime on a scale that should be impossible for a species at their supposed technological level. Jira's calm facade wavered. Impossible? Are you certain? Could it be a natural wormhole, a remnant of the galactic formation? She knew the answer before she asked. The augurs of the Glycan were infallible, their sensors capable of distinguishing the breathing of a microbe on a world light years away. If they said the distortion was artificial, it was. It is artificial, Vorlag confirmed, his voice heavy with finality. And it is growing. The energy readings are off the scale, yet they are perfectly contained. There is no radiation leakage, no temporal fragmentation. It is as if they are carving a new law of physics, and they have done so in complete radio silence. They have not hailed us. They have not announced their presence on the galactic stage. They have simply opened a door of impossible scale, and now they are waiting. The weight of his words settled over the council. The implications were staggering. For a species to wield such power, to warp the very fabric of the cosmos, suggested a level of technological and scientific mastery that was beyond the Glycan's comprehension. The supremacy had built its empire on the principles of kinetic force, energy projection, and brute force FTL travel. They moved through spacetime. These humans, it seemed, were learning to rewrite it. Vrex's iron shell pulsed with a slow, rhythmic thrum of aggression. Then we must act. A preemptive strike. We will assemble the Grand Armada. We will converge on this Sol, and we will cauterize this potential threat before it can metastasize. We have crushed civilizations for lesser provocations. Their silence is an act of supreme arrogance. Their technology is a weapon pointed at the heart of our supremacy. We must answer it with overwhelming, undeniable force. And what if that force is insufficient? Jira countered, her voice sharp with alarm. You speak of attacking a foe whose capabilities we cannot even measure. We are blind, Vrex. To strike now would be like a child throwing stones at a leviathan coiled in the deep. We might provoke it. We might awaken a power we cannot hope to contain. Think of the reports from the Outer Rim, the scout patrols that have vanished without a trace near their territory. No wreckage, no distress calls. Just gone. Erased. Is that the work of a primitive species? The debate raged, the very air in the chamber crackling with the energy of their conflicting philosophies. Vorlag listened, his ancient mind processing every argument, every nuance. He had led the supremacy for longer than most species in the galaxy had existed. He had seen empires rise and fall, had weathered cosmic storms and political upheavals. But this was different. The fear was not of a rival empire, but of the unknown itself. Humanity was a variable that broke every equation of galactic power. Their psychology was alien. A species that could achieve such mastery of the universe should, by all logic, have announced itself. They should have demanded recognition, territory, tribute. They should have followed the ancient, immutable dance of power that had governed the galaxy since the dawn of time. But they did not. They simply watched and built their impossible door in silence. Vorlag finally raised a hand, and the chamber fell quiet once more. His crimson light softened to a deep, contemplative purple. We will not strike. Not yet. Vrex is right that the threat is undeniable, but Jira is also right that our ignorance is our greatest weakness. We cannot fight what we do not understand. And we do not understand them. We do not know their motives, their ethics, their goals. To attack them now would be to gamble the entire future of the Glycan supremacy on a single, blind throw of the dice. He turned his attention back to the shimmering star map. We have always underestimated them. We saw their wars, their art, their philosophies, and we dismissed it all as the chaotic flailing of a young and foolish race. We never considered that their path was simply different, that their evolution, both biological and societal, was leading them to a place we cannot even conceive of. He paused, letting the weight of his introspection fill the chamber. They have built a door. For now, they have not come through it. They are waiting. Perhaps it is a test of our wisdom, our restraint, or perhaps it is a warning. Whatever their intention, our first move must not be one of aggression. It must be one of caution, of observation. What do you propose, Prime Counselor? Jira asked, her pearlescent shell reflect, seating his somber purple glow. "We will send a delegation," Vorlag announced, his voice regaining its customary tone of command. "Not a war fleet, Vrex. A single vessel, our most advanced diplomatic cruiser, the Veil of Serenity. It will be crewed by our finest xenologists, linguists, and philosophers. You will lead them, Jira. You will approach their system not as a conqueror, but as an emissary. You will open a channel. You will speak to them. You will learn who they are, what they want, and why they have broken 1,000 generations of silence by tearing a hole in the universe." His gaze shifted to the scarred Iron Warrior. "And you, Vrex, will prepare the Grand Armada. You will position them at the edge of the Perseus Veil, hidden, cloaked, and ready. If Jira's mission fails, if their intentions are as hostile as you believe, then we will not hesitate. But we will not fire the first shot. We will not be the barbarians in this chapter of galactic history." The decision was made. A fragile thread of diplomacy would be extended into the terrifying void of human silence. As the council members acknowledged their orders, a profound sense of destiny settled over the Grand Chamber. They were standing on the precipice of a new age. The old certainties, the comfortable assumptions of their own supremacy, had been shattered. They were no longer the sole architects of the future. Across the vast, cold emptiness of space, a silent, enigmatic species had just announced, without a single word, that the rules had changed. And as the Veil of Serenity was prepared for its journey, a single, terrifying question echoed in the minds of the Glycan leaders. What happens when the legend you dismissed as a child's tale appears at your door and changes everything? The journey of the Veil of Serenity was a study in contrasts. Outwardly, the vessel was a masterpiece of Glycan engineering, a seamless obsidian shard that moved through the void with silent grace, bending light around its hull in a shimmering display of technological dominance. It was a ship designed to awe, to intimidate, to project the unassailable power of the supremacy. But within its hallowed halls, the mood was one of deep, gnawing apprehension. Jira and her hand-picked team of specialists felt less like emissaries of a great empire and more like supplicants approaching an unpredictable god. They spent their transit time in endless simulations, debating every possible first contact scenario, every conceivable facet of human psychology. Their archives contained terabytes of human data, their art, their music, their wars, their religions, their philosophies. But it was like trying to understand the ocean by analyzing a single drop of water. The information was fragmented, contradictory, and maddeningly incomplete. They studied the works of human philosophers, Plato, Nietzsche, Confucius, and were struck by the sheer diversity of thought, the constant, roiling debate about the nature of existence. Glycan philosophy was monolithic, a single, unified truth refined over millions of years. The humans seemed to thrive on intellectual chaos. They analyzed their art, from the serene landscapes of their impressionists to the brutal, jarring canvases of their abstract expressionists. It spoke of a species that embraced both sublime beauty and profound ugliness, a duality that the logically driven Glycan found deeply unsettling. Their music was a storm of emotion, ranging from heartbreaking symphonies to aggressive, percussive rhythms that seemed to echo the violence of their history. But it was their history of warfare that gave the Glycan the most pause. They had fought each other with a savagery and ingenuity that was breathtaking. They had developed weapons of mass destruction capable of sterilizing their own planet and had, on several occasions, come to the very brink of using them. Yet, they had always pulled back. At the moment of ultimate self-destruction, a strange and powerful sense of collective restraint seemed to take hold. This pattern was the greatest enigma of all. A species capable of such monstrous violence, yet also possessing an equally powerful capacity for empathy and self-control. They were a walking, breathing paradox. Vrex would see them as monsters. Jira saw them as something far more complex, and therefore far more dangerous. As they neared the Uit cloud, the outer boundary of the Sol system, their long-range sensors began to feed them data that defied their understanding of physics. The gravitational anomaly Vorlag had spoken of was now a stable, shimmering aperture in spacetime, a perfect circle of absolute blackness larger than their home world's primary moon. It did not pull matter in like a black hole. It was utterly inert. Yet the energy readings emanating from its perimeter were titanic, a quiet hum of power that dwarfed the output of their ship's core. It was not a weapon, nor was it a gateway in the conventional sense. It was something. A statement. It is a work of art, whispered Lyran, the mission's chief xenolinguist, her multifaceted eyes fixated on the viewscreen. The mathematical precision, the sheer elegance of the energy containment, it is not merely functional. It is beautiful. It is meant to be seen, to be contemplated. Jira's pearlescent shell flickered. Or it is the most sophisticated threat display in galactic history, a demonstration of capability so far beyond our own that it renders traditional warfare obsolete. They are showing us that they can unmake reality itself. That is a message of power far more potent than a fleet of warships. Her communications officer, a young Glycan named Kale, shifted nervously. Counselor, we are being scanned, but the energy signature is passive. It is not a targeted scan, more like a gentle awareness of our presence. It is incredibly detailed. They are reading our molecular structure, our ship's energy pathways, even the neural activity of the crew. But there is no malice in it. It feels inquisitive. The feeling of being observed, of being known so completely by an unseen intelligence, sent a ripple of primal fear through the crew. It was a profound violation of their sense of security. The Glycan were the observers, the catalogers, the masters of information. To be the subject of such a deep, effortless analysis was a humbling and terrifying experience. "Hold your course," Jira commanded, her voice a model of composure she did not feel. "Do not engage any countermeasures. Do not raise the shields. We will show them that we come in peace, with nothing to hide." It was a monumental gamble. Lowering their defenses in the face of such an unknown power was contrary to every tenet of Glycan military doctrine. But her intuition, a faculty she valued as much as her logic, told her that a show of force would be met with annihilation. Their only hope was to appeal to a sense of reason, of shared curiosity. As they drew closer, a single vessel detached itself from the darkness near the great aperture and moved to intercept them. It was small, impossibly so, a simple, unadorned silver teardrop with no visible engines, no weapon emplacements, no viewports. It radiated no heat, no energy, no emissions of any kind. It simply moved, gliding through the void in defiance of Newtonian physics. It stopped at a respectful distance from the Veil of Serenity, a silent, gleaming enigma. And then a message arrived. It was not a radio transmission, not a laser pulse, not any form of communication the Glycan had ever encountered. It was direct. A stream of pure information, of language and intent, deposited directly into the minds of every Glycan on the bridge. The translation was perfect, flawless, as if the humans had an innate understanding of the Glycan language and consciousness. The voice, for it had the quality of a calm, genderless voice, spoke a single, simple sentence. "Welcome, we have been waiting for you." The sheer, effortless intimacy of the communication was a shock to their systems. It bypassed technology, bypassed the centuries of linguistic and cultural barriers that defined first contact protocols. It was as if a ghost had whispered directly into their souls. Jira, her mind reeling from the psychic intrusion, forced herself to respond. She activated their own communication suite, a powerful psionic amplifier, and projected her thoughts toward the human vessel. It felt clumsy, crude, like shouting through a storm compared to the elegant whisper she had received. "I am Counselor Jira of the Glycan Supremacy. We come in peace, seeking to understand. We are impressed by your creation." It was a massive understatement, but it was all she could manage. The human response was immediate, and its contents sent a fresh wave of disbelief through the Glycan bridge. "The creation is not ours. It is a remnant, an echo. We are merely its custodians. We invite you to come aboard. There is much to discuss." A debate, brief and frantic, erupted on the bridge. To board an unknown alien vessel without any tactical information was an unprecedented risk. But to refuse would be an insult, a clear signal of mistrust that could doom the entire mission. Jira made her decision. "I will go. Lyran, you will accompany me. Kale, you have command of the Veil. If we do not return, or if you detect any sign of hostility, your orders are to retreat to the rendezvous point and transmit our findings to the Prime Counselor. Do not attempt a rescue. Do not engage. That is an order." The human ship extended a shimmering, translucent tunnel of light that connected its hull to the Veil's airlock. It was not a physical structure, but a tube of contained, breathable atmosphere. Hesitantly, Jira and Lyran, encased in ceremonial but functional armor, stepped into the light. The sensation was disorienting. There was no feeling of movement, no sound, no change in pressure. One moment they were in their airlock, the next they were standing inside the human vessel. The interior was as stark and minimalist as the exterior. The walls were a soft, matte white, glowing with a gentle, indirect light. There was no visible technology, no consoles, no wiring. The air was clean, pure, with a faint, unidentifiable scent like ozone and old stone. The chamber was empty, save for a single figure standing in the center. It was a human, taller than the Glycan expected, slender, and clad in a simple, form-fitting gray suit. Its face was placid, its features symmetrical. Its eyes, a deep, startling blue, held an expression of profound, ancient calm. There was no readable emotion on its face, no aggression, no fear, no curiosity, just a serene, patient awareness. "I am called the emissary," the human projected, its voice the same calm, genderless tone they had heard before. Its mouth did not move. "There is no need for your external armor. The environment is perfectly suited to your biology." Jira, after a moment's hesitation, retracted her helmet. The air was indeed perfect. The calm of the human was infectious, settling her own racing thoughts. She had prepared for a tense negotiation, a confrontation with a powerful and potentially hostile race. She had not prepared for this sense of monastic tranquility. "You speak our language, our thoughts, as if they were your own," Jira stated, her own voice sounding harsh and guttural in the silent room. "Language is a vessel for concepts," the emissary replied. "We have had a great deal of time to study the concepts of the galaxy. Your thoughts, your history, your fears, we are aware of them. We have been aware of them for a very long time. We have watched your supremacy grow, just as we have watched 1,000 other empires rise and fall." The casual, matter-of-fact way it spoke of watching empires fall sent a chill down Jira's spine. This was not the arrogance of a young, powerful race. This was the dispassionate observation of a being for whom empires were as fleeting as clouds in the sky. "Why," Lyran, the xenolinguist, asked, her voice trembling slightly, "why have you hidden from us for so long? Why reveal yourselves now?" The emissary's blue eyes seemed to look through them, into the vastness of time itself. "Our silence was a necessity. We were not hiding. We were learning, growing. Our path of development was different from yours. You expanded outward, seeking to control the physical universe. We expanded inward, seeking to understand the fundamental principles that govern it. We learned that true power is not in conquest, but in comprehension, in balance." It gestured, a slow, graceful movement of its hand, and the white walls of the chamber dissolved. Suddenly, they were no longer in a room, but floating in the heart of a vibrant, swirling nebula. Galaxies bloomed and died around them in accelerated time. They saw the birth of stars, the formation of planets, the slow, intricate dance of cosmic evolution. It was a vision of such overwhelming scale and beauty that it brought tears to Lyran's multifaceted eyes. "We learned that the universe is not a dead thing to be exploited," the emissary's voice echoed in their minds, a soft counterpoint to the cosmic symphony surrounding them. "It is a living, interconnected consciousness. Every star, every planet, every living being is a part of it. To destroy a world is to inflict a wound upon oneself. To extinguish a species is to silence a voice in the cosmic choir. This was a truth our own species learned through great and terrible pain. We nearly destroyed ourselves before we understood it." Jira stared at the phantasmagoric display, her mind struggling to process the philosophical immensity of what she was being told. The Glycans saw the universe as a resource, a canvas on which to paint their empire. This was a complete redefinition of existence. "And the aperture?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "The door you built." The cosmic display faded, and the calm white walls of the chamber returned. The emissary's serene expression did not change. "As I said, it is not our creation. It is a wound, a scar left in the fabric of spacetime by a conflict so ancient and so vast that your galactic histories do not even contain the myth of it. A war fought between beings who did wield reality as a weapon. This system, this planet you call Earth, was chosen by the survivors of that war as a seed bank. A place of quiet contemplation where a species could be nurtured to evolve not just technologically, but ethically. We are the result of that experiment. We are the custodians of this world and the guardians of this scar." This was the reveal. The grand, shattering truth that recontextualized everything the Glycan thought they knew about humanity. They were not a young, chaotic race that had stumbled upon incredible power. They were the inheritors of an ancient legacy, a species cultivated for a specific, cosmic purpose. Their technology was not a weapon, but a tool of stewardship. Their silence was not arrogance, but a sacred duty. "We have revealed ourselves now," the emissary continued, its calm voice cutting through Jira's stunned silence, "because the scar is waking up. The energies that created it, long dormant, are beginning to stir. The echoes of that ancient conflict are returning, and the phenomenon is not limited to this system. We have detected similar stirrings across the galaxy. This is not a threat that can be met with fleets or armies. It is a fundamental unraveling of physical law. It is a crisis on a conceptual level." It turned its gaze directly to Jira, and for the first time, she felt a flicker of something beyond pure serenity in its mental projection. It was not emotion in the way a Glycan would understand it, but a sense of profound, cosmic gravity. "We cannot face this alone. Our path of inward contemplation has given us great understanding, but it has left us isolated. We understand the how of the universe, but we have forgotten the we. Your species, the Glycan, and the other great civilizations of this galaxy, you have mastered the art of collective action. You build empires, you form alliances, you act as one. You have a strength that we have allowed to atrophy." The emissary paused, letting the final, unbelievable piece of the puzzle fall into place. "We did not open this door to threaten you. We opened it to invite you. We need your help. We need your capacity for unity, your logistical genius, your talent for large-scale organization. We need you to help us heal the universe before the echoes of a war fought before time began consume us all." Jira stood in stunned silence. The species they had feared, the silent predator they were prepared to go to war with, was not a threat. It was a desperate plea for help. The legend had appeared, and it had not come to conquer them, but to ask them to be its ally in a war for the survival of reality itself. Everything had changed. The Glycan supremacy, in that moment, became a very small thing in a very, very large and terrifying universe. The return journey to the Veil of Serenity was a silent one, a stark contrast to the tense, speculative voyage out. Jira and Lyran moved through the tunnel of light in a state of profound shock, their minds saturated with the immensity of the human revelation. The calm, white interior of the human ship had been replaced once again by the cold, functional metal of their own airlock, but the world they had returned to was no longer the same. The universe felt thinner, more fragile. The comfortable bedrock of Glycan certainty had been pulverized into dust. Kale and the bridge crew met them with a barrage of questions, their energy fields pulsing with anxiety and curiosity. Jira silenced them with a single, weary gesture. She stood on the command deck, looking not at her crew, but through the main view screen at the impossible silver teardrop hanging in the void. It was so small, so unassuming, yet it contained a truth that had just fundamentally realigned the axis of galactic power. She thought of Rex and his Grand Armada, a magnificent, terrifying instrument of brute force, now rendered as obsolete as a sharpened stone. How do you wage war on a philosophical concept? How do you bomb an unraveling of physical law? "Counselor," Kale prompted gently, his youthful respect warring with his desperate need for information. "What did you learn?" Jira turned to face him, her pearlescent shell seeming to have lost some of its luster. She felt ancient, hollowed out. "Everything we thought we knew was wrong," she said, her voice a low, resonant murmur that filled the bridge. "They are not our enemies. They are not our rivals. They are something else entirely." She recounted the entire experience, her words painting a picture that stretched the limits of her crew's comprehension. She spoke of the direct mental communication, the vision of cosmic history, the revelation of humanity's true purpose as custodians of a primordial wound. She explained that the great aperture in spacetime was not a human creation, but an ancient scar, a relic of a war fought by gods before the Glycan had even evolved. She described the emissary, a being of unnerving calm who spoke of philosophy and cosmic balance, not of territory or resources. When she finally reached the climax of her tale, the human plea for an alliance, for help in healing the very fabric of existence, a profound and absolute silence descended upon the bridge. The Glycan were a proud race, their culture built upon a foundation of self-reliance and dominance. The idea of being needed by a species as demonstrably superior as humanity was a paradox that was difficult to process. But more than that, the nature of the threat was a concept so alien it bordered on the mystical. The Cathar hordes, the territorial disputes with the synthezoid collective, these were conflicts they understood. They were matters of ships, weapons, and strategy. This was a war against physics itself, against the echoes of a forgotten apocalypse. "It is a trick," one of the tactical officers finally blurted out, his field flaring in agitation. "A deception of unimaginable complexity. They feign vulnerability to lure us in, to disarm us psychologically before they strike." Lyran, who had remained silent until now, shook her head, her multifaceted eyes shimmering with unshed crystalline tears. "No," she whispered, her voice filled with a raw, unglycan-like emotion. "You did not feel what we felt. The communication, it was pure. There was no layer of deception, no hidden intent. It was truth, the kind of truth that resonates in your very atoms. The sorrow in their knowledge, it was immense. The burden of their vigil, it is a weight that would have crushed any other species." Jira nodded in agreement. "I have spent my life studying alien psychologies, deconstructing lies, and sensing hostile intent. There was none, only a profound weariness and a desperate, logical plea for partnership. They are not warriors. They are scholars, caretakers, and they are terrified." The Prime Council was reconvened via a secure, long-range quantum entanglement communicator. The Grand Chamber, light years away, materialized as a perfect holographic projection around the bridge of the Veil of Serenity. Prime Counselor Vorlag's crimson form dominated the space, his energy field crackling with anticipation. Vrex was there as well, his iron shell a brooding storm cloud of skepticism. Jira delivered her report again, this time to the highest authority in the supremacy. She left nothing out, conveying not just the facts, but the overwhelming sense of awe, confusion, and dawning understanding she had experienced. As she spoke, she could see the ripples of disbelief and consternation spreading through the assembled counselors. When she finished, the silence in the holographic chamber was even more profound than it had been on her own bridge. It was Vrex, predictably, who broke it, his voice a harsh, grinding rasp. "A fable, a beautifully constructed fantasy designed to appeal to your diplomatic sensibilities, Jira. They sensed your nature and fed you a story of cosmic importance to mask their true intentions. Guardians of a cosmic scar? A war before time? It is poetry, not strategic intelligence. They have unimaginable power and they are at our border. That is the only fact that matters. We must strike now, while we still have the element of surprise." "Surprise?" Jira shot back, her composure finally cracking, her voice rising with a passion that startled the council. "They are reading our neural activity from across the system. They knew our history before we arrived. There is no surprise, Vrex. There is only our own arrogance and ignorance. To attack them would not be a war, it would be suicide. It would be swatting at a god and hoping it does not notice." Prime Counselor Vorlag held up a hand, his crimson light pulsing slowly, thoughtfully. He had listened to Jira's entire report without interruption, his ancient mind absorbing every detail. "Jira," he said, his voice calm and measured, "you are certain of this. There is no possibility of deception." "I am certain that what they projected to us, they believe to be true," Jira replied carefully. "Their entire civilization is built upon this belief. It is the core of their philosophy, the foundation of their culture. To them, this threat is real. And their analysis of its nature, of a fundamental instability in physical law, aligns with certain anomalies our own deep range observatories have been reporting for decades. Phenomena we dismissed as sensor ghosts or statistical noise. Unexplained energy fluctuations in the galactic core. Slight, almost imperceptible variations in the universal constants in the void between galaxies. We saw the symptoms, but we lack the context to understand the disease." Vorlag's light deepened. He was connecting the dots, his vast intellect reassessing millennia of data through this new, terrifying lens. The legend of the Silent Ones had not just been a story about a powerful race, it was a prophecy of a universal crisis. Humanity's emergence was not an invasion, but an alarm bell. "They are offering us a partnership," Vorlag mused, speaking more to himself than to the council. "Not vassalage, not surrender, an alliance of equals. One provides the knowledge, the other provides the means of action. It is logical, symmetrical." "It is madness," Vrex roared. We would be shackling ourselves to a species we have known for less than a day, to fight a war against a foe we cannot see or comprehend. We are the Glycan supremacy. We do not ask for help, we provide it in the form of swift, orderly assimilation. That supremacy means nothing if the reality it is built upon dissolves into chaos, Vorlag countered, his voice taking on a hard, definitive edge. Your grand armada is a powerful tool, Vrex, but a hammer is useless when you need a surgeon's scalpel. And we, it appears, are facing a cancer in the very bones of the universe. The humans are offering to be our surgeons. We would be fools to refuse their diagnosis simply because it frightens us. The Prime Counselor turned his full attention back to the holographic image of Jira, his crimson light bathing her in its glow. You have done well, Counselor. You have looked into the abyss and you have not flinched. You have brought us a truth that shatters our understanding of our place in the universe. It is a terrifying truth, but it is one we must accept. He then addressed the entire council, his voice resonating with the weight of historic decision. The old era is over. The age of the Glycan supremacy as the sole power in this quadrant has ended. A new age begins today, an age of partnership. We will accept the human offer. We will join them. We will commit the full resources of our civilization to understanding and combating this threat. We will forge a new destiny, not as conquerors, but as saviors. Together. He looked at Vrex, whose iron shell was practically vibrating with fury and disbelief. Vrex, you will stand down the Grand Armada, but you will not disperse it. Its new mission will not be conquest. It will be the defense and support of the joint scientific and engineering efforts to come. Your talent for logistics and large-scale mobilization will be needed now more than ever. You will learn to build, not just to break. The order was given. The debate was over. A decision that would alter the course of galactic history had been made, not in a flurry of war, but in a quiet exchange of ideas. Jira felt a wave of relief so profound it almost buckled her legs. She had averted a war that would have spelled their doom, and, in its place, had laid the foundation for the most important alliance in their long history. As the holographic council chamber faded, returning the Veil's bridge to its normal state, a new message entered their minds, as calm and clear as the first. It was the human emissary. We thank you, Counselor Jira. The Glycan supremacy has chosen the path of wisdom. The work will be difficult. The road ahead is long and uncertain. But for the first time in a very long time, we do not walk it alone. The small, silver teardrop of a ship turned and glided back toward the great, silent aperture. It was not a retreat, but an invitation, a gesture for them to follow. Jira gave the order, and the Veil of Serenity, once a symbol of Glycan dominance, now a vessel of humble partnership, altered its course. It moved slowly, reverently toward the human system, toward the scar in the universe, toward a future that was both terrifying and filled with a strange, brilliant hope. As they crossed the threshold of the system, passing through the outer asteroid belt, their sensors registered something new. It was a signal, faint, structured, and impossibly ancient. It was not coming from the Sol system, but from deep space, from the blackness between galaxies. It was a complex waveform, layered with mathematical proofs, star charts of galaxies long since dead, and the biological data of species that had vanished from the universe before the Glycan's home world had even cooled. It was a message in a bottle, thrown into the cosmic ocean billions of years ago. Kale managed to isolate and translate a single, repeating fragment of the signal, a phrase that was both a greeting and a warning. The fragment read, "It is not a scar. It is a cage, and the prisoner is waking up. We built it to contain the devourer. We failed. Flee while you still can." A new, colder fear settled onto the bridge of the Veil of Serenity. The humans were wrong. They were not custodians of a wound. They were the unwitting jailers of a cosmic horror. The alliance they had just forged was not to heal the universe, but to stand against something that had consumed the gods who came before them. The legend had appeared, and it had not just changed everything. It had revealed that the story they thought they were in was merely the prologue to a much older and much darker epic. The true test was only just beginning.